Bug out fly screens made in New Zealand. Today we're going to show how to install the bug out fly screens on these French doors.
There are 6 steps to installing the insect screens. Step 1. Adhere the magnetic strips down the sides and across the top of the door frame. Step 2. Trim the drops to the right length. Step 3. Add bottom horizontal magnets. Step 4. Hang the drops. Step 5. Add the 2100mm vertical magnets to the left-hand side of the last drop and trim to the correct width. And finally, step 6. Fix locking clamps to the top of the drops.
Sometimes on wooden frames you'll need to put a primer. This primer is colourless, can't see it, and is a solvent, so you need to move relatively quickly. Right on the edge where the magnetic tape will go. So you may have to do 2 dips and then the last side down the vertical. That's good. When you first unbundle a kit, you should find the following: a set of instructions, 1 mesh bound with a band, 1 or more mesh unbound, 4 lots of tape, 1 bound with silver tie, a gold tie, a black plastic tie, a white plastic tie, and a plastic bag in which there will be some black locking clamps, some screws, 3 rolls of narrow tape bound with green, and 1 with another colour. So the first step is to put the 2 vertical strips down on the frame and the horizontal. First of that we do the vertical, and we take the green off the 3 rolls, and we will now put that tape on the vertical. We start at the very top corner, and as we go we peel off the backing, black plastic backing, that's it. Get it nice and lined right in that corner so it's on the edge of the horizontal and on the edge of the vertical, and we run down. Taking our time, just take your time, get it nice and straight as you can, run right down the edge of the vertical. Okay, and you do that right to the bottom where we will snip off the right length. When you get to the bottom and are firmly pressed down, take a pair of scissors and cut 2 to 3 mils just above the bottom. Having done the right hand vertical, we now do the left exactly the same. We now need to put the horizontal across the top of the frame. So we take the magnets bundled with a golden tie and take that off, take one of the strips, and starting on the right hand side we peel the adhesive off, and we're going to run along starting on the edge of the vertical and across the edge of the horizontal. We're going to do that right across for that first piece. Give it a good firm press, and we will now repeat the process. This is a range 3X door, which means that we have 2 short tapes and 1 long tape on the left hand side, which we will trim. We have now put the second tape up, and taking the tape bound with a white tie, we will now put the last tape up and trim off. Having reached the end, we now take a pair of scissors and we cut so it is exactly the same, it's nice and square with the vertical tape. A good alternative to scissors, because this is such a dense magnet, is to use a Stanley knife, and you may need a few strokes, several strokes to cut through the tape. but it is a good alternative. Having completed putting the horizontal and 2 vertical magnetic tapes onto the frame, we now move to step 2, which is putting the mesh up and cutting to the right length. Taking a piece of mesh that was unbundled, and with the piece that has not got a bit of magnet on it onto the left hand side, we now put the magnet up. We line it up on the horizontal and an exact line with the vertical, and you'll find that the vertical magnets snap into place. We now move to the bottom to trim. Using your hand and pushing the mesh down, make a little snip with scissors on the mesh just above the floor before it touches the floor. Having done that snip, move to the other side and similarly hold it down, and just above do another little snip. We now take the mesh down so that we can trim off at the bottom using a straight edge to line up the 2 small snips we made. And taking our utility knife and holding the ruler firmly, the standing knife or the utility knife will cut through quite easily. And now we have completed the cut. We now move to trimming the other mesh to the same length. Having trimmed the first mesh, we now wish to trim the remaining mesh. So take the one that's been trimmed and lay it face down on the ground. So looking at the magnets at the top, the B magnet is the one with the groove down. That needs to go face down, which will mean the A, or the smooth side, will be face up. You can confirm this by looking at the left hand side when it is down, and the mesh will not have magnetic tape over it. So putting that down, that's it. We now take the other mesh to be trimmed and we line it up so exactly the same. So the B face down and the A face up, and we line that on the piece that is on the ground. Now we move and we can set each of the vertical magnets will line up exactly. So we go right the way down, making sure it keeps taut and pulling it down. So just take your time with this. This keeps it nice and even all the way down. Here we are. And we end up on the cutting board. So we can see where it lined up, so we're now going to put the straight edge along where the first cut is, and we're going to trim the second mesh. Okay. We need to do this process of trimming to the right length for each mesh drop. In this case we have 3, so we'll do the other one, and the last one, the left hand side, which had the band around it, will now be put on exactly the same way, with the B side face down and the A side face up, and line up on the right hand corner exactly. Now you can line the verticals down the right hand side, as we're seeing here. There are no magnets for the left hand side for this last drop, because we will be trimming that later on. So as this is an SX, the last drop is 600mm wide as opposed to 400. So if you've only been using a 500mm straight edge, you'll need 2 cuts. If you've been using a longer straight edge, it's just 1 cut as before. And done. So now all the drops are the correct length. We move to the next stage. We now move to step 3, where we put the bottom tapes to help weigh the mesh down. So take a mesh drop and lay it face down as before, with the B at the top, B magnet face down and the A magnet face up. And lay the bottom on a cutting board or flat surface, and now take the bundle tape with the silver tie, unbundle it. If there is this is a 3-drop system, a 3X SX, so there will be 2 of these pairs. There's an A and B pair. Take one of the A and B pair, split it in half like that, and you'll find you've got an A and a B. Take the B, the one with the groove, and take the backing paper off that and lay it on the flat surface. We're now going to put the mesh onto that. So you start in the left hand corner and you place that so the vertical and horizontal are nice and neat fit, and now run in a perfect straight line along the bottom horizontal. When you've got that aligned, that's it. Just give it a quick rub. Now use the pin, your rolling pin, or in this case a bottle acting as a rolling pin, and give it a good firm run. This is a pressure adhesive, and this gives a good bond. Right, having completed that, we now take the other part of the pair, the A tape. It's on with a smooth surface. Take the backing paper off it. And put the adhesive surface down and line exactly with the magnetic tape that is already on there. When it's lined up, again use your rolling pin, bottle, whatever, and give it a good firm pressure. That's it. This is to make sure we've got a very good bond. Excellent. Now repeat this for the other drop, and that will leave you with 1 drop over the left hand drop, which we will need to trim before we add the magnet. We now move on to step 4, where we hang the drops. So taking the right one of the first mesh you did, we put it up in the top corner, lining it exactly. And as before, the verticals just snap into place. And on the left hand side at the top, we still have the piece of mesh. Move up. I can't see. Piece of mesh which we're going to overlap with the next magnet. Right, I'm going to do that. So the magnets on the outside, on the left, snap on to the ones on the right. You would continue to do this for all the mesh up until the last mesh, which is the one we trim. So now taking that last mesh, we do the same as before. We butt it up to the other magnetic tape over the piece of mesh, and again the left snaps onto the right the way down. So we've now completed stage 4. We are now up to step 5, where we put up the last left-hand drop and trim to the correct width. We begin by taking the remaining roll with the coloured tie around it and putting that onto the vertical, left-hand vertical magnet. So we'll do that now. So we've got the magnet aligned with the magnet on the frame already, and we have the adhesive with its backing face out. Take down full length and trim to match. Now we'll remove the backing. And now we put up the drop. So again, like the other drops, the magnet butts right up to the one that's already there. And it magnetically lines up, and we now make sure the magnets are all lined up down the side. Now, using our thumb, we run our hand down the full length of that magnet to press the mesh onto the adhesive. Nice firm run all the way down. Try to yeah. So now we take the remaining roll and we take the adhesive off, and then we put it on as we go. Adhesive face onto the mesh. So magnetically aligned, and with the adhesive going onto the mesh, we've had adhesive sandwiching the mesh on both sides. Again, it will line up, so it's just a matter of running it down smoothly. Again, when you get to the bottom, you trim, and then you give a firm pressure all the way down, again with your thumb or roller, to make sure that we've got a good contact. Now going to take the mesh down and trim off the excess mesh and excess tape at the top. So putting on a flat surface using a utility knife, we cut off the excess magnetic tape. This is staying in line with the vertical tape. Right, now we trim. If we turn the board round so it runs the length of the vertical tape, we're now just using the magnetic tape as a guide. We now trim off the excess mesh. This is nice and simple because the magnet acts as a straight edge. We now, that's done, we now rehang the drop. and we are almost finished. And everything snaps into place and we're all lined up. We now need to put the bottom magnets onto the left hand drop. So this is slightly different to the other drops. So the first thing we do is take the last pair, which has a black tie around it, and we split them into the A and B, and we do the A first. And what we're going to do is cut it to the length, and then with both of them, and then we're going to adhere it to the mesh. So taking the B first, we lay it down. Now we start 10mm in from the edge of the left hand side. It's different from the others. And then we get it about 10mm in from the right hand edge. Yep. And we'll make a cut at that point. No. Yeah, yep. Yeah, we don't cut the mesh, we just cut the tape. We now get its pair and we cut it to the same length. So we just match them up, snap them together. And we cut to the exact same length. Having done that, we now take the B magnet, the one with the line in it, put it face down, peel the adhesive off, no, the other way. Yeah. There's a new way of doing it. You bend the tape to get the adhesive off, and we line that 10mm in, right on the edge, bottom edge. So effectively we're starting 10mm in and ending up 10mm short at each end. Once we've done that with a firm press, and then we take the adhesive off the A tape and line that up, adhesive side down. Having done that, we give it a really good firm press, and of course you can always use the roller. So now we put it back up. So remember, make sure the top goes on top. And that all just lines up. It's all snapped onto the left hand side, no trouble, and we'll just line up the middle. Okay, right, that's the end of that stage. This is the last stage, step 6, and it's where we put the locking clamps to make sure that the nets won't fall down no matter what sort of weather we have. Now the locking clamp is a black piece, and it's got two holes at the front, and it's got a lip at the top. The lip goes over the top of the tape and we screw in through the holes. We'll now put the first one up. So you start right flush in the corner, so the hole will be in about 5mm from the edge. These clamps have been designed in New Zealand and are unique to bug out fly screens and house health. So we're using a hand screw at the moment, but you can also use a power drill, and we'll do that for the next screw into this, just to show you that it can be done. There we are. So nice and neat. Now we do it for the rest, so just to show you where the next locking goes in, goes right on the edge of the same strip, and then the next one, if we just leave that there for a second, the next one, once that's screwed in, goes in right next to it and along with all of them. So that's it. You now have a full fly screen up and installed. Thank you.